Welcome to the Brand Gravity Show, where we explore the intersection between brands and psychology. I'm your host, psychology-driven brand strategist Kaye Putnam, and boy, do I have a treat for you. Today, I interviewed Elysia Skye, and she's a brilliant intuitive business coach. This was our first opportunity to connect, and we dove straight in. We have so much in common. When I was considering asking her to be on the show, I was looking at her homepage, and one of the things that she says on there is the bridge between what is impossible and what is possible is clarity. So you can tell that we are very like-minded, and she has so much genius, so much wisdom to share about how to listen to your intuition when you're making business decisions and life decisions, right? It's all intertwined. It's all interconnected. Elysia Skye is an intuitive business coach who helps heart-centered coaches and creatives claim limitless success without the fear of being judged from having inauthentic strategies by using mindful accountability and intuitive direction. She works with individuals and corporate teams using the proven techniques she developed for her online coaching programs, the Brilliance Method, as well as the course creation clarity. To quote Elysia, when we are fully present to each moment, we make quick, clear decisions, practice excellent self-care, and our capacity for patience and kindness expands. Our abundance in all areas of our life increases. This is the place to create your life from, and I am here to help you get there quickly. She lives in Nashville, Tennessee with her rock star husband and 4 rescues, 2 dogs and 2 cats. She loves live music, especially Pearl Jam, and enjoys learning new things every day, especially when it comes to the human mind and heart. Let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for being here, Elysia. Can you just get started by telling us a little bit of the journey so far?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you, Kaye, for having me. It has been a journey as we all experience, right? And in, embracing the intuitive business coaching life, it started with just listening to my own intuition. I just happen to be really good at business, and I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I always have. So in developing companies over the years and launching businesses and being successful at it, and then simultaneously life coaching, being intuitive, working with energy, people started asking me, how did you become so successful in business? And the more I started having those conversations, I realized, wow, this is really fun for me. And people are getting a lot of amazing results in the advice that I was giving them. So then I shifted everything to really just leaning into that zone of genius of I'm an intuitive business coach. And it just kind of happened naturally. But it all goes back to learning to listen to your intuition and trusting yourself, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Have you always trusted your intuition, or was it a process where you're getting more and more in tune with it over time?
I feel like I have always trusted it, but that level of trust has increased. And, when we look at our lives of, okay, am I intuitive, right? And some people aren't as connected to that word per se, right? Because, with your psychology background, words have so much meaning to us, and our perception of what those words are filtered through our own mind. It's different for everybody. So in listening to my intuition, and I believe that our intuition is a sense just as strong as our seeing, tasting, feeling, all of that. It's just we're so disconnected to it these days because we're so distracted and mindless in our action as opposed to mindful in our actions. And as a kid, as children, for all of us, we're in play, right? So it's so easy to just, oh, this is what I feel. This is what I'm going to do, and trusting. And also, from a spiritual perspective, as a young kid, we're so much closer to where we came from, wherever that is, right? So we trusted more. But then as we get older and, we have that in literature, they call it the loss of innocence moment, where all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, there's a thing like mortality, right? And we could get hurt and we could feel sad things. And when our realization of those things happen, then we start looking at external validation and external trusting of things as opposed to that internal process, which gets, totally kiboshed once we get into high school. and college
Mm.
and dating and hormones and all those things, right? Where it's like, what is so important, versus what we feel is the truth. So yeah, I think I screwed up a lot of my 20s, and I had to unlearn everything that I learned to get back on track in my 30s into now I'm 40 at the time of filming this. So
I apologize. I hope that didn't feel like I was laughing at you, because I was laughing at myself because you could not pay me to go back to being in my 20s. I was lost mess, and I've thankfully learned a lot since then. So
yeah.
I was remembering that lack of intuition, lack of awareness, lack of connection to self that can be so detrimental. You coined a term, your business is actually named the Brilliance Method. If you were to describe the ingredients of the way that you work, of this method, what's included in that?
Ooh, that's fun. I like the way you asked that. It's almost like we're putting it all in a jar, right? This methodology really developed from, again, my own process of figuring out, like, man, how did I screw up so badly, right? Like that feeling of being in your 20s you were just talking about. How did I screw up so badly? And then how did I become successful? And what did I do, right? So the ingredients are, number one, learning to listen to your intuition, learning to hear it clearly. Number two, then trusting it and applying what you're hearing, following that process of, okay, I feel it, I know it. Now it's time to take action, right? And in that trusting your intuition and taking action piece, there's fear. There's fear, Kaye, right? Because not just external
Mm-hmm.
validation, but am I taking risks? And I feel something, even though everyone else is telling me that, like, that's not right. Or, when we all go through that stuff of, should I choose this business partner? Should I leave this romance? Should I invest in this coaching opportunity or this other type of whatever it is, crypto, houses, all the stuff, right? That actionable piece is overcoming fear, right? It doesn't mean that we're not going to not feel fear. It just means that we are making a choice, even if we're a little bit scared, trusting ourselves, looking at our risks that we're taking, right? Hopefully calculated risks with like a little bit of magic in there of bringing in the intuitive piece, but choosing from a place of love, from a place of, what do I want? Do I want to make an impact? Who am I going to help? What's going to happen to all these wonderful people when I actually do this and believe in myself and keep going? And it's not just enough to take that first leap and choose love over fear and make the choice and stick to it. But then you got to do it again and again and again and again. Every time you level up, right? Like it's like a video game.
Yes.
The challenges get harder, right? You get to level 8 and you're like, whew, okay, I'm going to take everything I learned in level 1, but now it's like, right? You're breaking a sweat. It's like, okay, now I'm going to do it again, but up here. But of course, like that's the evolution of the soul, of the spirit, of the human mind. Like, why wouldn't it get harder? But because we've applied it and we've learned it, isn't it also not harder at the same time, right? It just means that the levels and the challenges are harder, but our application of it, our ability to go, oh, no, I feel it, I'm taking action. Whoo, I feel fear, I'm going to choose love, right? We go faster. So even if it's harder, it doesn't feel that way because we're just going faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost like we build our muscle memory for addressing that type of feeling in our body. Before we go any further, I have like 17 questions that I want to ask you. This is so fascinating. But before we go any further, what are some of the results that you're most proud of, either from your own story or from working with clients, to give people a taste of what's possible when they lean into this?
Thank you. I would say the most important ones, I'll talk about my life briefly and then I'll share some fun client stories. But when I was younger, in my mid-20s, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And at the time, this is in mid 2000s, a lot of people were not looking at women under 40 getting cancer, right? So my doctor had said to me, oh, you're 24, it's probably just a cyst, right? It's very common to have lumpy breasts and whatnot. But I knew intuitively, no, something's not right. Like I have to get this checked out. And I was asking, like, I don't know the terms. Is it a mammogram? Is it a biopsy? Like, what do we do? Right. And she's like, well, you can do all those things, but I don't know if your health insurance is going to cover it. And, my age at the time and health insurance was very different then. So I moved forward on it anyway. Even though I was scared, I took action. I listened to my intuition. And had I listened to her, Kaye, I would not be here right now. Had I waited,
Yeah.
I would not be here. The younger you are, cancer grows very fast. It loves healthy bodies, right? It thrives in that environment. There's so much more room for it to do its thing. So without, we're very sensitive people, right? So without feeling into that too much, I'll just skip to the end and say I'm alive, right? New boobs, long hair, it all worked out. And in that journey, I was like, oh my gosh, had I not listened to my intuition, I would have been dead in a month, let alone where are we now? 16 years, right? So that's the best result. Best result, I'm right here, right? And my clients have some similar stories, but there's so many people who have those stories, right? I didn't turn left. I didn't get on that plane. I broke up with that guy, right? Like crazy stories, crazy stories. And then, I'm married. I'm so happily married. This year we celebrated our 11-year wedding anniversary, and it's just so nice when it's just easy, right? When like that one big category of life, like that's easy. We always say to each other, right? It's like whatever's going crazy, like as I'm doing different launches and different things and testing things, or like the world, like all sorts of shit's going on in the world, like all the time, regardless of what side of the rainbow you're sitting on, right? So to come back and realize and remember that gratitude every day. Oh my gosh, at least I have a good marriage. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I feel for those who don't have that, because I share that with you. We have like an incredible relationship. We've been married for 12 years at the moment. And it's such an amazing life hack, or just amazing thing to be grateful for. And maybe it's not a partner, maybe it's a safe place to live, or maybe it's an incredible friend network that you have. But yeah, leaning into that gratitude is an amazing way to center yourself.
Thank you, love. I'm so happy that you're in such a great marriage for so long.
Tell me what, on the business side of things, when you've worked with clients, do you have like one or two favorite stories that you like to share?
I mean, okay, so just recently, because there's success stories like every single week, it's hard to keep up. Just so the last two that feel so great. So I just posted in the last 48 hours, one of my clients who had been charging way too little, right? So just warning, if anyone here winds up working with me, I'm going to tell you to raise your prices, probably the first thing out the gate. Okay. So charging way too little for their brilliance. And she raised her price. And I also had this hit that she needed to branch out in her company. And again, right? Sometimes it's like, I don't know what I know, why I know, I just know it. So I'm going to tell you where it comes from because it works. So I gave her this piece of advice to open up this other branch of her company. She did it. And within 48 hours, she made over $12,000. Just right. Like, she's like, she sent me a Voxer and she's like, oh my God, I had a $12,000 day. That's never happened before. Like, she's never even made that in a month, right? So, and for some people, it's like it feels impossible. So I just want everyone to know it's not impossible. Everything is possible. It's that bridge from impossible over to possible is clarity, action, and trusting your intuition. One of my other clients who's in the Brilliance Method, we have different tiers of the program. So Sapphire is the tier. Everything's named after crystals because I'm a little woo-woo. But in my Sapphire tier, which is my middle tier, one of my clients had never gotten a client. She was with another coach who I love so dearly for a long time. Amazing coach. Had she not learned everything she learned from that coach, I don't think she would have been ready for me. And so we also have to look at that when we're looking at having two coaches or working with more people. Yes, the answer is yes. It all works. Say yes to as much as you can, right? And trust yourself when it's a no. So in being a part of my program, being with me in under 90 days, she got her first 25K client. And then a week later, she got a 20K client. And this isn't just about the money, Kaye, right? She's helping people. She's helping people with their businesses. And the other person is in the publishing industry, and this person is helping people scale their businesses. And some of them have brick and mortars where, like she's like, Elysia, they sent me a message that they were literally on the brink of being homeless until I started working with them. Like, she helped someone not only not be homeless, but now have a thriving business. Like, she helped them shift in a matter of 30 days. Like, that is magic, right? And to know that I pushed that domino forward and helped her create her offer that brought that person into her light. Whoo! Like, oh my God, like I indirectly helped someone from being homeless. Like, this is impact-driven success, Kaye. That's what this is about.
Amazing. Yes, I am with you there. It is so much more than the money. Every entrepreneur that's only driven by money that I've ever had a conversation with, typically they get blocked, like they get stuck. They don't see the success that they're looking for. But as soon as you expand that definition of the vision that you're creating, the reality that you're stepping into, it seems like things happen faster, just as a random observation. And some people get triggered by talking about the different amounts of money that are possible. But to me, it shows the possibility. It shows that if it's possible for somebody else, it is absolutely possible for me. And being in spaces where people are achieving results like that is magical. So thank you so much for sharing the numbers, the specifics. I love it. And as you were doing it, I was getting my personal intuition cue, which is I get full body goosebumps whenever somebody's talking and whatever they're saying is true. I listen to it a lot when I'm working with my brand clients. I'm like, oh, that's something that's going to be really important in their brand. Tell me, how do people cultivate that ability to listen? Like if maybe it's not goosebumps for them, how do we actually hear our intuition?
Okay, well, I'm going to volley this back at you for a second. When did you first notice the goosebumps? And follow up to that, when did you start understanding the pattern that was a confirmation for you?
I didn't start noticing it until I started working on my own energetic state as a priority. So when I was stuck in my head, stuck in my brain, in the left brain logic based way of approaching the world, I didn't ever get goosebumps. But once I started prioritizing how I felt and getting reconnected to my body instead of just relying on my head 100% of the time, I started to notice that every once in a while I was getting these goosebumps. And sometimes it's something silly. It's like I'm watching a movie that's like really touching and emotional and beautiful, and I get full body goosebumps. I'm like, ooh, that was fun. But then I realized it was happening more and more often with my clients. And when I tuned in or when I responded to that cue, they almost always would validate the truth. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm like really feeling it, or like this is really important to me. So that's been my process.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, and I feel like that is relatable for everyone to hear. So I want you who's listening and watching right now to pay attention to when your body is giving you those cues and when those external validations are coming in from the people you're sharing it with. Because Kaye, what you just described in your own essence is intuitive business coaching. But then you take your psychology, your wisdom, your expertise, your experience, and then you apply it with the strategies that help people align their archetypes and everything else that you do, right? Yeah. So that's more or less a general process that everyone can follow. But the key thing that you mentioned, my love, is getting out of your head, right? So it's kind of getting out of your head and into your heart is the way I describe it. Mm-hmm. And it can be your heart, it can be your gut. It just depends where you feel that, right? And for you, you just feel it all over your body. So the process, as we layer it down to the itty bitty beginnings, is about getting out of your head so much. And when you said, when I started doing more of that inside work, right? That's mindset work. And, those are kind of the big buzzwords in the coaching industry right now, is like, it's strategy stuff or mindset stuff. And everybody's just like, when's the strategy? Like, if I just have the strategies, I'll execute them and this and that. And it's like, yes, you will. But then remember what I talked about earlier about how all that fear kicks in and you stop taking action, right? So without the mindset pieces of what helped you, Kaye, and everyone else, including me, it's hard to obtain that success because you get stuck or lost in those little divots of fear, right? Where it's like, okay, how do I get out from here? Then you have to go back into that mindset piece, which for me always comes back to mindfulness. And in that mindfulness, really mindfulness, if you're not as familiar with it, it's just the act of being present, of being in the moment, right? And when we're in the moment, it slows everything down. Like right now, wherever you are, right? Do you feel your own butt sitting in that chair? If you're watching this on your phone or listening, do you feel the weight of your phone in your hand? Right? And even Kaye, you and I looking at each other, do you see the perimeter of your monitor? Right? And you just notice it, right? These things we take for granted all the time, which it's too distracting to look at everything around us. That's why movie theaters usually put us in a black box. We just stare at the screen, right? We don't get to do that in our day-to-day life. So then it's up to us to do the hard work and actually focus. And for some people, that's hard, right? Some people are not set up to focus like that. So then it's going into the breath, bringing the breath in to help them focus, to reduce that anxiety, to then go, okay, I am choosing right now, to notice the black border of my monitor. Breathing, feeling my body, sitting, standing, doing what I'm doing. Allow your cells to reoxygenate and relax. Moving all that fear response, right, from the back of your head up to the top of your brain into, okay, now I can process decision making because I feel safer. And then we're clear. Then we go, okay, what's my heart saying? Now I feel calm. Now I feel safe. What's the truth? Take action from there. And doing it over and
Ooh,
over
I
and
love
over.
that.
Right?
I love that so much. I feel like I've gotten the question a lot from people where, especially when you're in online business and you're not required, but leadership requires visibility. So we need to show up, we need to share, we need to speak, we need to create. But a lot of people have trouble accessing a sense of safety. And you just described a beautiful, simple process for accessing that state whenever you want.
Anytime.
So thank you for that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Another thing that I hear from people is that trust and take action part of the process that they have trouble with, that they get stuck in a loop of like thinking, or just not being able to trust whatever their intuition serves up. How do you help people get over that hurdle?
Well, it is a process, but I would say if you're just starting the beginning of that process, either keep an intuitive journal or notepad or start sharing it with people. Start testing yourself and playing with it. Make it a game, right? So, for example, if I were to give you homework, okay, if we were just getting started, I would say, okay, every time you get those goosebumps, right? Every time you get that hit, first of all, you've already noticed, you're already aware of what your intuitive confirmation is, right? So that's step one. Like, what is it for you? Do you feel it? Is it your gut and your heart? And there's a whole meditation we could do on that. But you already know what yours is. So you know what yours is. Then every time you're right, write it down for yourself. Keep a log to validate yourself, to track that data for yourself if you are a data-driven person. Okay. To prove to yourself, I'm right. Like, I'm right all the time. And then you make it a game. Okay. Notice that when you think about someone, right? Just like dolphins under the ocean sending each other sonar and pinging and being able to find each other, we can do that energetically. I believe it and I've seen it, right? So I can be thinking about you and then all of a sudden you'll send me a message, right? So then, chicken or the egg? Did I call you in or did I know you were about to hit me up, right? I don't know, right? It doesn't matter, but it's just confirming in that playfulness of it. Keep it light. That goes back to that childlike sensibility we talked about earlier. Go back to playing. That we're just here to feel joy and love and forgive and repeat over and over. That's the meaning of life. Okay? Right there. Right there it is. Right here on the Brand Gravity Show.
Boom.
Love, forgive, repeat. Okay. So just validate it for yourself. Share it with people. Like, find someone that's like not, I don't know anyone named Sally. So I say shitty Sally. Like, don't call a shitty Sally. And if your name is Sally, I love you and I'm sorry. Okay. But don't call a shitty Sally and be like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about this person. And then they called me, or I was just singing this song. And then all of a sudden it started playing on my playlist and did it, right. And they're like, whatever, that's weird. Like, that's not who you share your joys and your wins with, right? You find someone like Kaye, you find someone like me, and you say, hey, oh my gosh, I just wanted to share that I just got this hit to take action on this thing, and then I did it, and then, oh my gosh, this is what happened. It's like, cool, right? Thank you for trusting yourself. You have now made a difference in your life and someone else's life, and you've reminded me to trust my own intuition too. Share it.
Yes, I love that. I call that looking for the hashtag evidence. And I think that that's such a good practice of kind of like tuning in your brain, your reticular activating system, to look for more proof of the things that are useful for you to believe. So if it's useful to believe that you're intuitive and your intuition is going to tell you the exact way to go, proving it to yourself is only going to build that trust. I love that so much. Amazing. Okay. It feels, and maybe this is just me, I've been reading too much of the news lately, but when your clients, when the people that you're coaching get into fear, they get into the context of what is happening in the world, like all the tension, all the conflict, all the stuff that's happening, how do you shift them away from that fear to move them back into love for making decisions? Is it just turning off the news, or is there a more profound way to attune our attention?
Both. Turn off the news. Okay. But, it's good to know what's going on. It's good to stay connected, right? Don't sit and absorb it. We are energetic, sensitive beings. What are you choosing to share your energy with? It's just like eating. Like, you want to eat that? That's what you want to put in your body, right? If you need to find out, right? I have a couple people who I refer to as my trusted news sources because I don't watch the news. I don't swipe that way on my phone to see the headlines, right? There's a couple people where I'm like, all right, I'm seeing all this stuff going on. Everyone's profiles did this. Like, tell me what's up. Because I'm too sensitive to see these images of things and to hear about some of this stuff, like from someone who is, reporting it from that emotional place to drive that fear into society, right? And it's not that I don't want to say we need it. We don't really need it, but it's about being inspired to take action, to vote, to use your voice and your heart and everything we need to do. So when we're stuck in that, right? And I don't, at the time of filming this, Kaye, I don't think that we're any close to resolving all these issues. In fact, more and more issues have become issues recently. So in seeing that, okay, you hear people say it's just getting worse. All right, I'm sure people have felt that way for centuries, that it's just getting worse. So that's perspective, right? And what is a miracle? A miracle is a shift in perception. So how do you bring in your own internal miracles? How do you shift away from that fear? You focus on what's working, not what's not working. That is how we problem solve, and that is how we strategize. Okay. Think about most people, right? Most people have some sort of health or fitness goal, right? They either want to lose 10 pounds or gain 10 pounds, right? Whatever it is. So if you're constantly focusing on what's not working, you're focusing on what's broken, you're focusing on the struggle, right? On the triggers and all the things that are driving you crazy and having you just stare that way. You're making it so much harder on yourself. How do you feel like you're going to enjoy any sort of process going from here to here, right? So fitness is a good example. If you look at, okay, if I've just been focusing on what's not working, right? My gym membership, I've been paying $100 a month for that I never go. And now I'm feeling guilty about that and all the diet food that I freaking hate, right? It's not working, right? And then you're mad. Okay, what is working? What's working? Well, I like walking my dog every morning. Awesome. Your dog likes it too. Let's do it 3 times a day. Okay. Even though I don't like diet food, I actually really like broccoli and spinach. Like, I kind of like those foods. Great. Let's eat more of those types of foods as opposed to focusing on eating less of the other foods, right? Fill your belly with the proteins and the other things, then you won't have room to eat the garbage, right? So that's just an example, Kaye. But long answer. Focus on what's already going well and expand from there. Doesn't that sound like more fun too?
Oh, heck yes. Heck yes. Simple but profound. Our brains are magical. And by literally choosing which to focus on, are you choosing on everything that's going wrong? Or are you focusing on everything that's going wrong? Or are you focusing on everything that's going right? Thank you for sharing that. It is such a good reminder. I feel like it's something that we know, quote unquote, know, but unless you're doing that daily practice, then you're not reaping the benefits that you could. So thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
I want to shift and ask you a few shorter questions to wrap us up here. What has been the best investment that you've made in your business or your brand?
Well, probably, and this is going to sound so silly, probably when I turned my program into an online course. And it's like, you might not have expected me to say that, but I came from the world of video production. I was an actor, and then I became a producer, and then I started working with all these creators and influencers, which then I then moved into academia. And I helped a lot of professors take their curriculums, their college curriculums, and put them online. And in learning the course creation process and seeing how you can reach more people all over the world, and you can wake up with money deposited into your account, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so easy, right? So earlier when I mentioned there's different tiers of the Brilliance Method, that's why, Kaye, right? So knowing that I have that impact and I get to bring those other little zones of genius that I have of like being a producer and a director and creative, and I actually created a course. And I took some course creation classes to see what's out there, and those were great. But then I created, in addition to the Brilliance Method, I don't even know if you know this, I have my own other program called Course Creation Clarity, where I bring in all this magic and this strategy. And so I've helped people create courses through there. And, they call it the evergreen dream. It's amazing. People are loving it and they're getting such great results. And it's a closed loop program. So if you're familiar, with all of that stuff, like, you don't need to hire a bunch of other people to help you be successful with this. Like, I do everything in my business the way I like to be a client. And I don't like when I buy something and then it's just a little bit and then I have to buy more things, right? Unless that's kind of obvious in the beginning. And I'm very transparent with
Yeah.
my audience when I'm bringing them into different events and things of like, here's what's up and here's what's going to happen, right?
I was watching your intro video in preparation for this, and you shared in that intro video on your website that you were giving people the look, like the wizard behind the curtain. And I think you just did that for us here too, which I love so much.
Transparency.
Yes, it's powerful. It's powerful. So my audience are lifelong learners. They love books. They love podcasts. They love courses. What is your favorite way to learn? And do you have any specific recommendations for us to check out?
My favorite way to learn is being immersed with other people, always. So before the pandemic, like I loved going to seminars and weekend retreats and things like that because I get to just practice complete focus because really busy, right? So so I'm a binger. Like I'm just going to binge, just going to do the thing. And now we're in a binge culture with our television and I love it, right? So it also means I'm so behind on all the seasons of everything because I haven't made the time to just sit there for 12 hours and watch a show. So that immersion, and now we're getting back to it. So in-person retreats as much as you can. And because of that, I also love group coaching. I love being in group coaching programs. I love running group coaching programs. That's what Sapphire is. It's group coaching so that we can all be together and benefit from what other people are asking. Because I don't think I'm the smartest girl in the room, right? I'm pretty damn smart, but there's other people who come from a different life experience than I do and have, when they ask powerful questions, I benefit from those answers. And I see it with my clients all the time. So that's my favorite way to learn. Find yourself a fabulous group that you can allow yourself to be vulnerable enough. Find someone who you trust to feel safe enough to ask those questions in front of those other people. For me, like it's all about the privacy policies and this and that within my own programs. So that's that. And then I love audiobooks. Big fan of the audiobooks, and find a book you love, and not just fiction. I love learning about history and all that stuff. So big Audible. I'm an Audible binger.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. Yes, I love Audible too. Do you have a book that's been particularly impactful in your life or in your business?
The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you read The Big Leap?
Yeah, it's excellent. It's amazing.
So good. And he just has the sweetest voice. I love when the narrators themselves actually do the books. So yeah, that, as we talked about, our zone of genius, but not only is it zone of genius stuff, which most people are caught onto these days, he talks about your hidden barriers, your limiting beliefs of why you aren't taking action, right? Maybe you don't want to outshine someone in your family, or you feel like you're fundamentally flawed, working through those. And then I won't spoil the end, but he actually gives you a formula on like how to have successful relationships. And powerful, right? Going back to what we were talking about in our marriages, that like, that's the thing that we want the most, whether it's marriage or with our children or whatever. And then one of my dearest friends, mentors, love her. Her name is Andrea Quinn, and she wrote a book called The Quintessentials, The 9 Tools to Accomplish Anything. And it's really for women, even though she's doing the quintessentials for men right now. So if you're watching this in the future, it might be out, but it kicks off with receiving, that women, especially women of our age range, more or less, didn't learn how to receive, right? We learned how to give, and like to give is better than to receive and all that stuff. But receiving is the in-breath. We right out the gate, first thing we do. So when we're listening to our intuition and we're practicing mindfulness, it's so important to breathe. And just how they say on the airplane with the mask and all of that, when we get to receive first, we can better take care of other people. So she takes you on a journey of receiving, and she layers on these 8 other tools, and it is brilliant. And she has an online, it's not pre-recorded at this time. Maybe it will be when you watch this later, but she does an online course and she does some in-person seminars too. So Andrea Quinn, love her so much. And it's fun. It's fun when we get to also like shout out our friends who are rocking it.
I know.
Yeah. So great.
I love getting recommendations. Okay. Final question. If you could implant a belief or an idea in every person's mind, what do you think that everybody needs to know or understand?
Whenever we are manifesting or creating, I want everyone to add the term this or something greater to what it is they're asking for. Okay. Because if you believe in the universe or God or energy, that you're saying, hey, I just want this thing, right? I'm focusing on this thing and I want to create this in my life. And we're so focused on it, right? That we've got these blinders on, and maybe there's a plan, like you're like, I just want 10 clients. Maybe you're supposed to have 20. Okay. Or maybe you're supposed to have 3 at a much higher price that you can really give your heart to, right? We don't know what we don't know. And we know more than we think we know. So there's a little bit of surrender there. This or something greater. Whatever you're wishing for, whatever you're praying for, whatever you're manifesting, surrender a little bit to give some room, right? If you and I had mapped out every minute of what this podcast was going to be, we wouldn't have breathing room to play. Give yourself some breathing room in what you're creating in your life to trust yourself and the universe that I want this or something greater.
Beautiful. I understand that you have a resource that you can share with our audience. So please let us know about that checklist that you have available.
You got it. So I created what I called my 11K checklist because I used to be terrified of sales. And then I made $11,000 in less than 11 days and then another 6,000 the next day. And then it just went up. And I was, again, just how I created the Brilliance Method. I was like, how did I do that? Like, seriously, how did I do that? Right? Went back into the data, looked at everything that I did. I typed it all out for myself. Then I was like, I'm going to give this to my clients. And I gave it to my clients, right? And I just told you one of my girls just made 12K in one day. Like, she applied it, right? This is free, you guys. This is free. Okay. She applied it, even though she's in Sapphire, but she applied it. And again, years of coaching before that, but can't take all the credit. We can't take all the credit, Kaye, even though we want to take a lot of the credit. We can't. It's you guys. It's you guys doing the work. So I made this checklist. And it's called How I Made 11K in 11 Days. And it's all the steps. And I added to it, I did a video training on each step in addition to the actual checklist to facilitate people who learn differently. So if you prefer video learning, I got you. If you want to just read it, I got you. Happy to share it with you. And depending on the timing of the year and what I've got going on, because I have a retreat coming up too, I might be available for a 20-minute clarity call with you. So I'm going to offer that inside the checklist. So it's just a gift so that more kind people will do great things with their wealth.
Yes, we will put the link in the show notes or on YouTube, wherever you happen to be watching this interview. Elysia, thank you so much. You shared so much value and actionable steps mixed in with the inspirational and the perspective shifts. I am so freaking grateful that you made the time to educate us, to share your story and your heart with us. This was incredible and my favorite thing to do.
You're welcome, Kaye. Thank you. I receive your words so beautifully. It's so wonderful to sit across from you like a mirror doing this important work. Thank you for doing what you do and helping everyone you help and shining that light, right? We get to be that lighthouse for people who are like, where do I need to go? And to do that so that they're not like wet in the ocean and screaming and drowning. It's like, no, here's like an easy path. So you do that so beautifully. Yeah. You are such a lighthouse. Yeah, I'll make the time anytime. Let's do it again.
Wasn't that an amazing interview? I am blown away by everything that Elysia was able to share with us in that short time period. I encourage you to listen to your intuition more in your business. Leave a comment below. What does intuition show up like for you? Is it a sensation? Is it a sign? Is it something that you hear? How do you know when your intuition is speaking to you? And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and like this video so that you get notified when we release future episodes of the Brand Gravity Show.